So just as promised, I've been experimenting more with UE5, and I'm trying to do some actual architectural projects in there, some Archviz stuff. So of course I went back to some of my old projects. If you've been in my Advanced UE4 classes before, then you know this project. But I'm trying to take the project from that course and turning it into a UE5 project and trying to take advantage of some of the new features that are found in UE5 that weren't there in UE4. And mostly what I'm talking about is the Megascan stuff and the Lumen real-time ray tracing global illumination. Okay, with UE5 it's made much more simple, and as I've shown in my other test videos, it seems to be working quite well. So let's see what it looks like when we take that project into UE5 and start making use of the Lumen features in UE5. So at the beginning, I'll just be getting that project up to speed, and you'll be able to see what I'm doing there and trying to get some nice architectural renderings from it. But then I get into trying to match. Some of you may have seen my Advanced Interiors course, which actually takes the same project but does it in Vray and generates some professional Vray renderings of the same space. That's brand new project added to the Advanced Interiors course. Check that out if you haven't yet. Links in the description. Okay, but aside from all that, some of the renderings that I generated using Vray, since I have the same space and I'm getting it up to speed in UE5, I wanted to test it out to see if I could get the same results in real time Unreal Engine as I can with the Vray CPU rendering. So you will see me after getting the project up to speed and taking some architectural shots, and I mean, things look pretty good in there for an Archviz project for real-time rendering. But I wanted to match them side by side and see what kind of results we can get when you're looking at them right next to each other. See if we can match the same results that Vray can produce and kind of make them go head to head and see what happens. So I think the results are interesting. I think it's intriguing. You'll have to stay tuned to the end to see what kind of results we're gonna get. But I think these are the cool kind of experiments that we need to be doing as Archviz artists to try and put Unreal Engine to the test and see how it can be most reasonably integrated into our workflows. So first I'm just taking that old project and I'm getting it up to speed, making sure all the materials are working. When I updated it, I didn't have the Substance plugin working in UE5 like I did in UE4, so I just said forget it. I'm going to replace all the Substance materials I had with Megascan materials and test those out, which is one of my goals in the first place, right? And I love the way the Megascan's materials work. There isn't a huge selection of materials for things like fabrics and stuff like that. There's a lot of natural materials. But the way they work, you can see they're all parametric here, which is awesome. It does the same thing that like the Vray materials do when they're brought in through Datasmith, where it's set up with parameters for everything that you can just adjust in a material instance or a child of the material parent. That's very handy, especially if you're used to working with Vray. So I'm just checking it out. You can see there's still a lot of the light baking errors showing up in here and stuff because this was all light baked originally. So I'm trying to get it set up with just real-time stuff by changing the lights to movable, setting up the Lumen settings in the project settings, which is basically just going in and saying I want my ray tracing to be figured out with Lumen. And that will be available as long as you have a good enough video card. So I am still just adjusting settings, going in and adjusting some of my old materials to look different, look better, and replacing some of them with where there's materials missing because of Substance plugin not being here. It's all super handy to have a vast library like Megascans just available so we can go in and grab things and drag and drop essentially. I mean, that's a huge thing, and it's a very efficient way to work. Back into the Megascans library again, looking for more stuff. This time I'm looking for leather for the chair, which I had used the Substance material for. Now this is, when we go to match this with the Vray, I think one of the biggest differences is the fact that my Vray material is not in this project, and so one of the biggest differences is probably frankly the material I made in Vray is nicer than this Megascans one. It's very even looking leather, and I made something that was really worn and had a lot more variation in it for my leather, and that was a really nice effect for when I'm getting a lot of reflections on that leather, and I'm going to, when I try to match it in here, it doesn't give the same effect. That might be one of the biggest differences. We'll see when we get to that part. But in general, the Megascans materials are really nice. Like the material for the countertop, the marble, is excellent. I'm tweaking the lighting a lot to try and get it how I want it to look, but mostly just getting the materials up to speed. And this is all done in a short amount of time. It's not hard to do all this stuff, to just get things up and running. And you can see it's cool to just be able to see a project that's kind of rendered already, and you're just kind of walking through it. Pretty awesome. So of course that's been a bit, that's the beauty of real time in general. That's not a UE5 specific thing. That was available in UE4. It's just very cool as an Archviz artist to be able to walk through your renderings essentially. Okay, now I'm going to go over here and try and get this lighting right. Of course, you approach the lighting totally different when you have, I mean, the UE5 lighting is going to be different than what we were doing in UE4. Here we were trying to create an area light that has a big size to it to create soft shadows, and with real-time GI, then the way soft shadows work is going to be a little bit different. It's not faking it so much, it's actually doing ray tracing, right, to figure out you know, what the contact shadow versus the larger shadows that things are casting. So all that stuff kind of works with Lumen. Here I'm putting a fabric on from the Megascans library, which I think is really good. So Megascans materials are better for some things than they are for others. This fabric looks really good in my opinion. It's obviously super high detail, and when you get up close to it, it holds up extremely well. So now with the lighting how I want it and the materials all how I want it, it's just about setting up a camera and then using the post-processing settings to get that basically looking how I want. So that's where I'll do depth of field. That's where we can adjust the bloom, which I thought was way too much on the light bulbs up there. So, okay, so that rendering came out pretty good, and you'll see it here on the screen. Took a snapshot of it. Got everything working like I wanted to. So now it's time to go head-to-head with a view that already exists in Vray and try to recreate the exact same view in Unreal Engine. So that's what we came here for. Let's check that out real quick. And now we get to this chair, and this is the one I'm trying to match with the Vray rendering, which you have seen. And you can see, I mean, it's easy to match the camera. The materials, I think, are the thing that really looks different. The lighting is actually pretty close, I think. The one thing I would say that I don't feel like it looks correct is, or I'm having a hard time matching them, and that's the reflection and the materials. So the materials, obviously I could adjust myself to try and get it even closer to the right look. The reflections, I'm dependent on the engine a little bit to try and get to make sure it can make those look right. And maybe if I matched the lighting and materials exactly right, then the reflections would be a closer match too. But I'm gonna tweak the lighting here to try and get it to match what's in the Vray scene better. Okay, you can see my colors are kind of out of whack compared to the Vray thing. And the Vray rendering, in full disclosure, is photoshopped a little bit. So it'll probably be hard to match it exactly in here, even with post-processing settings. But I'm going to do my best, and then at the end I'll take this into Photoshop and see if I can do similar adjustments there to match what I did to the Vray rendering. But you can see the camera looks almost identical. The models aren't exactly the same, but the chair model is the same, and so is the console sitting next to it and the lounge chairs outside. Okay, so now I've captured that as a high resolution screenshot and brought it into Photoshop. You can see the main difference is the material and the reflection, like I was saying. The lighting isn't as accurate in Unreal Engine, but you can see it's approximating kind of the same thing. I think the contact shadows don't look as good. That might be because of some of my lighting settings, but you can see like the colors and stuff are working pretty good, and the lighting is matching pretty well. So I'm just doing a little color grading in Photoshop to try and match kind of the same look I was getting with the Vray. And what do you know? I mean, these things look pretty dang close. So I'm pretty satisfied with the way that the global illumination ray tracing is working. I think, like I said, I could use some more work on the materials and things like that. But for real-time ray tracing, that's pretty impressive in my opinion. So that's pretty much it with the Unreal Engine to V-Ray match. So I want to hear from you guys now. Let me know what you think of this. Let me know if you think it looks good, if you think it looks like crap. If you know some ways that I could make it look closer, make it look better, then let me know that too. And then I just want to know your thoughts on Unreal Engine 5 in general, and if you're working it into your workflow, how you're doing that, if you think you're going to in the future. Let me know what you think about all this stuff. And of course, let me know what else you want me to explore. I'm open for ideas. Okay, thanks a lot for watching. Make sure to subscribe while you're here. Leave a comment. Again, I'm going to be doing a bunch of stuff in Unreal Engine, so if you're into that, definitely subscribe. There will be more Archviz content coming up in various different subjects as well. So thanks a lot. See you soon.